going to go right on into this. So here's the first thing to think about when we start articulating your value proposition and going in to being confident in your expertise. Remember your why and start with your why. There is a reason why all of you guys decided to become real estate agents. And that's going to be something that you're going to root your business and the success of your business in. And I think it's so important, especially early on, but no matter where you're at your career, to think about why real estate over everything else, and why am I going to be in this business to help people buy and sell property, right? So what is my why? What's driving you? Treat this job like a career. Okay, this is your livelihood, and you should be running your real estate business like a business. The greatest thing about real estate is that you can still have your personality, you can still be super individual as a realtor, but if you don't treat it like a business and you just kind of run it as a hobby or something you like to do, you're never going to see those gains in your success. And when you go to a listing presentation, that's going to come off. It's not going to be something you take as seriously. So make sure that you treat this like your career. It's your livelihood. It's your business. Position yourself as the expert, not just to your clients, but you guys have to believe in it too. I definitely know we all have those days with imposter syndrome, or those days where we just feel like we're the worst realtor in the world and no one's going to ever want to use me. I really encourage you guys to reach out to me when you're having those days. I just had an agent do that the other week. She reached out to me because she was like, I'm the worst realtor ever. I don't know what I'm doing. And it's okay to feel like that, but it's also important to remember you got to pull yourself out of that, because what you put out is what you get back. So you got to get yourself out of that vein of thinking as quickly as possible and make sure you know you're the expertise and you know that you are the right person for the job. The other thing I really have done a lot of research on is affirmations. So if you've ever talked to a top producer, or you've read a book like Sell It Like Seer Han, or Finding Your Why, or You're a Badass, which was our last book club book, you'll know that a lot of them talk about daily affirmations, reminding yourself daily of your skill set and keeping your mindset and confidence dialed all the way up. So there's a lot of different ways to do this. The best way is just to brush your teeth in the morning and say to yourself, as you're looking at yourself, I am an expert. I am the real estate agent that everyone's going to want to work with. You could also steal mine. I wake up every day and I say, I am going to be the Beyonce of real estate. And everything I do is going to get me to that point. And I know it seems ridiculous, but every time I'm having a down moment, or I feel really stressed, or I'm exhausted, I just remember why I'm doing it and what I hope to accomplish from it, and it bounces me right back up. So mine is Beyonce. You guys can definitely steal her if you want, but I encourage you to kind of have your own, like, be a badass in your career, because you guys all are. Keep yourself educated and up on the trends. You can't be an expert if you think that you know everything. Truly, right? The top producers in our industry, the change makers, the influencers, they all continually keep themselves educated and up on the trends. So learn your market areas. If you're farming an area, you should know that area like the back of your hand. You should know the stats. So when someone calls you from that postcard that you're sending out, and they say they live in a 2-bed, 2-bath high-rise in Lakeview, you should already be able to sort of off the top of your head, because you've been studying your market, know the price range they might be able to sell in, or at the very least be able to say, wow, that's really great. I don't know if you knew this, but 2-bed, 2-baths in your area are actually selling at a rate of 22% faster than they were over last year. Being able to say that and be the expert right then and there, that's going to gain so much trust in you and your business. So study and be prepared to speak on them. You guys should all be spending an hour a day on education, whether that's attending one of our Sales Pro classes, attending this class on Tuesdays, or listening to a podcast, or reading some chapters of a book. 1 hour of education minimum. And I like to do a lot of that on InfoSparks to really start to learn the areas. You know, it's important to know what those are. You don't have to be a statistician. You don't have to know everything off the top of your head, but this is your career, right? And this is your craft. So you should definitely hone it and build those skills. So I found this quote and I really liked it, right? Your mind is a powerful thing. When you fill it with positive thoughts, your life will start to change. I truly, truly believe in this, you guys, in the energy. And when we talk about your value proposition, when we talk about going to that listing table and asking that seller for 7% listing, if you go in thinking to yourself, well, I'll try for 7, but they're probably not going to take it, so I'll go ahead and settle for 5. You're putting that out into the universe that you're already going to accept it. And you're not putting any value in what you're offering then either. So be as positive as you possibly can. I'm obviously living through the same really crazy 2020 that you're all living through. I mean, there's murder hornets, there's COVID, we had a tornado in Rogers Park yesterday. I mean, I don't even know what this year is about. However, I can either spend every day being miserable and upset about what I can't do or what's holding me back, or I can spend every day being thoughtful about what I can do, how I can make change, how I can be personally better. And if you're doing that and putting that out, people are going to feel that energy from you and feel that positivity, and they're going to want to be around you. I mean, we all have those negative friends that right now we just don't put a lot of time and energy into because it sucks you dry. Don't be that person. So I challenge you guys all to really think about that positive thought. All right. I'm going to jump right in to some very real things you guys can start doing right now on your listing presentations and your buyer presentations. But the first thing you have to know is you need to stop apologizing for what you're charging. You need to stop apologizing for that commission check you're getting, and you need to live up to your value proposition. This is a huge thing for me. I've noticed in my almost 9 years in the business that realtors are kind of taught to apologize to a seller for what they're going to charge. I mean, when I started in the business, I would go on listing presentations with a $30 million producer, okay, a big time agent. She would do a beautiful presentation over everything we were going to offer you as a seller. And then at the end of it, she would say, now I do charge 5%, but as I mentioned, you get da 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 da. Right off the bat, you are undercutting your value. Okay, that should have been, first of all, a 7% listing presentation on what we were offering. But regardless of if you're going to do 5, 6, 7, or anything in between those numbers, you have to be very confident in what you're offering that seller equals the amount of money you're going to charge them. At the end of the day, this is your business. You don't go to a coffee shop and say, oh, I really like that muffin. $1.35 seems steep. Would you take 85 cents for it? That's never going to be something you do, right? You're just going to pay for what you're getting. This is the only career I feel like where people feel they can really nickel and dime us, but a lot of it's because the culture of realtors have allowed it to be negotiated down instead of standing firm at what you're offering. So first of all, be confident, stop apologizing, but then you have to make sure you have your value proposition to articulate, right? You just can't go into somewhere and say, yeah, I'm going to do photos, floor plans, that's 7%. That's not convincing either. You still do have to have the stuff to back it up. So when you start thinking about your personal value proposition, right? Not Coldwell Banker's, yours. I'm going to go into Coldwell Banker's for a minute because you're going to leverage that. But you have to have your own value proposition. So the first questions you have to ask yourself is, why should a seller work with me? If we're thinking about a seller, or why should a buyer work with me? Why do you deserve the business over the 12 realtors in line for the business behind you? Why should that seller or buyer work with you? What sets you apart? There's a lot of realtors. CAR has almost 16,000 members of it. Why should they work with you? And I know a lot of you on this call, I can think of like 5 reasons for all of you why someone should work with you. But you have to think of that for yourself and really build your brand off of that. So then you can answer, what am I offering my seller or buyer that sets me apart? And what can I do to command a commission that equals my time, my energy, and expertise? Okay, you have to start thinking about that value that you have over everybody else. And that's why they should work with you. And then what are you offering that's tangible that is going to set you apart? All right, so let's talk about listings first. You got to ask for it. Get that 6 or 7%. You guys, I was with a new to the business recruit the other day, and I was going through with him the difference between having a listing at 5, 6, or 7%. It's crazy. Real quick, if everybody could mute themselves, I'm really sorry. I think somebody's unmuted, so just take a quick second to mute. But before you go into a listing, do that math yourself and just see what the difference is. Thank you for muting on your commission side, and you'll understand. But then you have to match that value. Okay, so if you're going to make more money off of this, what are you going to do to earn that business and to really show that you deserve it? So I broke it down into 2 categories, because anytime you're going into a selling presentation, a listing presentation, right, you need to be able to articulate the company's value. So what it is that you have already through the company that you're going to use. The seller doesn't need to know if you're paying for it or if it's included. That doesn't matter, right? But what it is that you can utilize with the company. And then what your value outside of the company, what your brand is going to be. So let's start at the company side. We have a lot of things as a value proposition. First and foremost, listing concierge. Remember, this isn't designed to help you sell that listing. It's designed to help you win the listing, because no one else has anything as comprehensive as we do on the market. Stop negotiating your commission, because when you're asking for that 7%, but you're telling a seller you're going to be on a TV show, it's going to get turned into a YouTube spot. I'm going to do creepy targeted online advertising so that your property follows that consumer around on different web pages. I am going to put you in a magazine. Those are 4 things off the bat that none of your competitors have at a good cost for an agent, so they're not going to do it. The CBX buyer profile. You can type any address into the CBX buyer profile on Desk and see where the buyer for that particular property is likely to come from. You can incorporate that into your Moxie presentation to be able to show your seller, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I've already done some research on your property in anticipation of you listing with me, and I can tell you within an 82% certainty that the buyer for your property is going to come from XYZ area. So this is what I'm going to do to market to XYZ area, whether it's Facebook ads, I'm going to send postcards out to that area or whatever. That's your individual choice. Obviously, we also have Moxie presentation, right? So you can highlight your expertise and your professionalism, frankly, through polished presentations that can be done virtually or in person. It's incredibly powerful to roll up to a listing presentation with something that's sleek and smooth and comprehensive, and not just a clunky thing you printed out and put into a file folder for them, okay? HomeSpotter Boost. Once it's listed, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, my company has targeted web advertising technology that I can actually run targeted ads that somebody else has made for me based on Facebook analytics to help get your property in front of as many eyes of buyers as possible. RealVitalize, that's another huge company value, right? It's a great tool for your client that needs a little something extra to show their property in the best light. Maybe it's staging, maybe it's they need some fresh coat of paint, maybe they need some landscaping. These are good options for them to be able at no upfront cost to them and like no extra cost, right? It's just at cost that comes out of their closing for them to do that. And then Burnett Title. We have in-house title that saves your clients money. So what's really great is you have everything under one house to offer that seller. They obviously don't have to use Burnett Title, but there are a lot of pros to being able to have that title agent in your office that you can talk to in real time. Not to mention, as you guys may or may not know, Burnett Title actually gives a lot of reductions to your seller. So they're going to be paying less to close with Burnett than they would be to close at Chicago Title or Proper Title or any of the other ones. Those are just a few of what the company has that you can leverage for your value proposition, but you can't just rest on that because they're choosing you to list the property. So you've also got to have your own value proposition from there. So these are some things to start thinking about and the categories to build under. So your communication. Set that standard at the start and hold up your end of the bargain for that. A lot of sellers, I don't know if any of you guys have ever been the second or third realtor on a listing. I've been that a couple of times. The number one reason they didn't relist with their other agent was because of a lack of communication. At the end of the day, people always want to be communicated with, almost overly communicated with, because if they don't hear from you, they assume you're not working on their listing. So one of the things I would do when I was selling is during a listing appointment, I would tell them straight off the bat, my expectation is that my sellers and I have a weekly check-in for about 10 to 15 minutes to go over what I've done for your listing in the last week and talk about the week going forward. Would this be better for you guys in email, a video chat, or text message? Video chat? Great. Let's go ahead and set that day and time now to be reoccurring until I sell your property. And I'll put it into your calendars. I guarantee you, hardly any realtor is doing that. Okay. And I know because I coach a lot of you guys, so I know it's not something a lot of you are offering. But also, when I would do that on listing presentations, they were floored because every agent's going to say, I'll keep you updated. I'll send an email out. I'll let you know how the open house goes. But hardly any agent is setting that expectation of this is when you should expect to hear from me. Not that you won't hear from me beforehand. I'm obviously going to give you showing reports and feedback in real time, open house stuff in real time. But I want to make sure that we take a dedicated 15 minutes of every week to really highlight for you what I've done for your listing. And, examples of how that might operate is, as you know, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I held an open house Sunday from 2 to 4. I had 18 people come through. This is how I followed up with them. We had 6 showings this past week. This is the feedback. We're obviously not getting any offers. This is what I would suggest for the week moving forward. That's huge. And honestly, very easy for all of you to incorporate right away into your value proposition. Vendors and services you offer. So the number one best thing outside of communication is having the I got a guy or gal, to cultivate those relationships with additional services you cover for the higher commission. So for example, when I've gone in and asked for 7% listings, I've paid up front for the cleaning. I always offered a pre-listing cleaning and a move-out clean. Sometimes I'd pay my handyman for the 3 hours of work that needed to be done to touch things up or staging, right? I'm paying up front because I know I'm getting 7% at the end of the day, so it's worth my time and it's something I'm adding of value. Now my clients don't have to source that themselves. That's really huge. I am working on another note, I am working on creating a good vendor database for all of our agents at our city central offices to access. But in the meantime, start thinking about who that could be on your team that you can then offer. Your value is also with realtor relationships. Who do you know that could bring the buyer? And make sure your clients know your strategy to leverage the relationships with other realtors. I think that's so key, right? To be able to say, I actually know a few realtors that do a lot of business in this area. They bring a lot of buyers. So as soon as this paperwork is signed, I'm actually going to go to them right away and offer them exclusive preview showings so that they can take this back to their buyers and they know what's the value of this property. That's big. The other thing to really be able to offer is to say, I did talk to a few agents in my office who are experienced listing agents in this area, just like me, and I gave them some information about your listing, obviously without disclosing anything. And, we all kind of talked about what this price could be. That's really good for your luxury listings as well. We all know that market is a little bit slower right now. So being able to say to a Mr. or Mrs. Seller that I did XYZ research into the price, that's also key. And then, of course, your social media presence. Here's the big deal with that. And if you guys have been with me before on coaching calls or in person, you know how much I love social media. I eat, I breathe it. My phone tells me every day that I've spent like 5 hours a day on social media. Here's the deal. You cannot just tell a seller, I'm going to post your property on Facebook and Instagram. That is not unique. Every single realtor in the world is telling their seller they're going to do it. So how are you going to present it online that's different than other people? How are you going to articulate the importance of social media? Are you going to write down for them, this is how much money I'm going to spend on ads? This is how many people are going to see your ads? This is how many followers I have. One of the things I was doing when I was selling, especially when I was asking for that higher commission, is I would come with a social media schedule. And I would say, I'd like to go live on a Tuesday and do 2 open houses, Saturday and Sunday. I'm going to run 2 separate ads, each of them $10 each, leading up to those open houses. This is how many people you can expect to see your ad, because you can pre-do those on Facebook. Just don't push publish, but you can get all that information really quickly to be able to show them. I'm 99.9% positive that no other realtor is really doing that. Maybe 1% of realtors is actually articulating their social media value, but I highly doubt they're putting it in such a succinct way. Pop that information into Moxie presentation, and oh my gosh, you've got such a professional, well-run business proposition for them. You're not just flying by the seat of your pants with a CB folder you pulled out from the back seat of your car with a printed out CMA from the MLS. You are running this like a business, and that is so, so important. So again, you have your company value to rest on, and then your personal branding value. Okay, so I like this one too. When you learn how much you're worth, you'll stop giving people discounts. My favorite thing in the world is when I put together my value proposition and I wouldn't take less than 6% listings. I'd come in with a 7, and if they were a referral or a family friend, I would cross out that 7 and I'd say, you know what, since so-and-so referred you and you're such a good friend, I'm gonna make the 7 turn into a 6, okay? I didn't go back down to 5. That's a whole percent more that I'm making. Would I go down to 5 on certain occasions? Okay, sure. But I didn't walk in with that expectation. I knew the minimum I was going to get was 6. And that was what the expectation I set for myself. And the thing is, I set that for myself. And I created the value proposition to follow it. Doesn't mean I wasn't prepared to negotiate for myself, but I set it for myself. These are a couple things to consider. I'm going to go back to the other slide because now we're articulating our worth, okay? And we're not going to give discounts anymore. So going back to this one and your value, if you go into this listing and you know what you're going to offer them on the company side, so what listing concierge packet you're going to use, you've already done your CBX buyer profile, you've got it all looking fresh and cool in a Moxie presentation. And I know that I'm going to ask for 7%. So I'm going to do those 2 cleanings. I'm maybe going to do staging. I'm going to do XYZ. When that seller starts to bulk at 7% and you start entering that negotiation phase, it is so important to know that if you don't start taking things off your side too, you're immediately undercutting your value and telling your seller what you were offering was never worth 7% to begin with. So what I mean by that is, if a seller starts saying, oh, 7%, you know, I'm talking to another broker and they were kind of offering 5, I'd say, okay, I certainly appreciate that. And yeah, a lot of my brokers or a lot of competition settles for 5%. Let me ask you something. Is anybody else offering the comprehensive marketing package customized to your property that I am? They're going to say no, because the truth is, how can anybody else do that, right? So, okay, so what's most important to you then? What are the things that you absolutely need to have? And let them tell you. That's going to tell you their pain point, right? And then you can say, all right, I understand. And I know that it's your money and you want to be careful with it. I do feel that all the services I offer are worth 7% for how much I'm going to do, but I also want to work with you. So I'm willing to go down to 6.5, but to do that, I'm going to take off that move out clean and I'm going to have to leave that up to you guys to do, because frankly, it doesn't equal the value at 6.5%. Be ready and prepared and confident to take things off of your side, because if they negotiate you down to 6 or 5 or any number in between there and you don't take anything off your side, they're going to walk away being like, wow, that person's a sucker. Why would I have ever taken 7%? Clearly it wasn't worth 7% if they're willing to do it for less. But also, it's going to start to cue that seller, whether consciously or subconsciously, that you can't even negotiate for yourself. So when it comes time to them getting offers, are you just going to tell them, well, you should just, accept the offer. It's a good offer to have. And, what's $20,000 lower? Let's just do it. If you can't negotiate for yourself, how can you possibly, for your money, okay? If you can't negotiate for your own bank account, what makes them think you're going to negotiate for theirs? This is something that's so, so important. And it starts with stopping apologizing. So what, your commission check is $15,000. Did anybody else see what you did to get to that point? Oh my God. Like I had I think the largest commission check I ever had, like a couple years ago, I think it was like 22,000 or whatever. And My ex-husband at the time was like, wow, that's so crazy. That's so big. And I was like, yeah, it took me 10 months to get that. Do you know how many showings I had to do? Do you know how much expertise I had? I had to learn so much. I wrote 4 offers for those people, blah, 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 blah. So stop apologizing, because you guys know how much work you're doing for this business. Okay. So if you take away anything from this, take away that. And just remember, if you can't negotiate for yourself in your own bank account, how are you going to negotiate for a seller? So I also want to jump on the working for it, securing that signed buyer rep. You should have a value proposition for both your sellers and your buyers. Overarchingly, it's going to be kind of the same, but we all know we work a little different for buyers than we do for sellers, right? So same thing as before, you have your company value and you have your value. Great things to highlight for a buyer to get that exclusive buyer rep. What am I going to do for you that would benefit you to be exclusively my buyer and not be shopping around? Well, my company actually has an exclusive look off-market opportunities for me to seize upon before they're on the open market, which means less competition. It also has a wants and needs section. So if we're having trouble finding something for you, or we're getting outbid, we're in a crazy market right now, I can actually let all of my Coldwell Banker colleagues know that I have a buyer looking for XYZ. I also have the Moxie presentation, so you can impress your buyers with this presentation that's thorough too. A lot of your buyers, especially first-time buyers, have no clue what the process is, and they're looking for a partner in this transaction, someone that's going to explain it to them. You don't want the first time your client is hearing about earnest money to be when you're writing the contract. You want to make sure you're explaining agency to them and that you're explaining the process to them so they feel protected. They feel like you have your back, their back. So that's why Moxie is so great with them. You have cbhomes.com. They can set up searches on your website in real time and you can get notifications from it, which is also huge. Sales Pro, you guys have those options to build your negotiation skills and objection handling skills. They have classes all the time on how to handle the objections from buyers, the 7 ways to negotiate better. Those are all great things to, again, hone your skills. Then Guarantee Rate Affinity, okay? The in-house options to offer your client that higher level of value, that's huge. No, they don't have to use Guaranteed Rate Affinity, but first of all, their rates are amazing. The other thing too is these loan officers we have every reason to excel at your deals because they know there's an office of people waiting for them to fail potentially, right? So they want to make sure they do this really well. But also, how powerful would it be in your buyer presentation to have that lender sit in for part of it? Do you know how many buyers never meet their lender? It's like this invisible man behind the screen that they never talk to, but you all of a sudden have to send your social security number to and a bunch of pay stubs. Now you have in-house lenders. Aaron is here today in Lincoln Park. Okay, Adam McLean pops into West Loop all the time. These lenders, Robin Squire is always in Gold Coast. They would be happy to either virtually or in person pop into the meeting, introduce themselves, and then set up something separate with your client to talk numbers. That is something that we have, that you guys have in your toolbox to utilize. So again, that's company value. And I'm sure there's like 5 other things that I could put in that bucket, but I thought the writing would be really small. So then we have your value from there, right? Again, for buyers, those are your realtor relationships. Who has listings and who is a heavy listing agent that could work for your buyer? Make sure that you talk to those agents and let your buyer know you have those relationships. The other thing to really mention when you're trying to get a buyer to sign that buyer rep agreement is now more than ever, we are in multiple offer situations. Knowing that agent on the other side of the deal can help get it done. I've won every single one of my except for 2. I've won in 8 years. I've won every single multiple offer except for 2 times. And it's been because I know that agent on the other side. They know me. They know I'm going to get the deal done. They like my clients. They trust, in GRA or whoever's doing the pre-approval for them. And that helps a lot. So making sure that that buyer knows you have those relationships and you're engaged with your fellow realtor is key. Again, with the communication, I cannot stress this enough, okay? And I know I send you guys emails all the time you don't read, okay? So I know that, which is why I call some of you and text you when it's really important instead. But make sure you ask your buyer how they like to be communicated with. I think I've only ever been asked that like one time. Oh, how do you prefer to be communicated with? And let me tell you, it was like a brilliant light bulb went off in my head because you know what? I would prefer you to text me. I'm not really big on phone calls. Go ahead and do that. That is huge. And I actually started doing that with my clients. I had a client who actually sold with me and then a couple years later bought with me. Now, when he was selling with me, I got that 7% listing. I paid for cleaning before we went live. I paid for his move out cleaning and I did staging, got 7%. Didn't ask him how he liked to be communicated with. Never had a problem. Obviously, he liked me enough to use me. When we went to go buy, I had started incorporating that question into my my repertoire, my value proposition. And he said, you know, actually, I really hate the phone. I know it's important to talk to people on the phone, but I would really, really prefer to text. Great. Do you know how easy communicating with him was? We negotiated through text, we did everything. He was so happy that I took the time to ask and didn't just assume that's how he liked to be communicated with. I think that's really a powerful thing because most people just make an assumption how I want to communicate. That's how I'm going to communicate with you. You are working for your buyers. I think it's nice to set that expectation. Make sure, again, with that market knowledge, your clients need to know that you're the resource, that you know before you go to that showing. If you know they're an investor and they're wanting to see something, you better come to that showing ready to tell them what you think that they could rent it for. If you know that they want that to be only a 5-year purchase because they kind of want to take equity out of that and buy something else, you better know what the lowest is that they could potentially get it for, and then what they could do to the property to get equity to make it profitable for them in 5 years. Granted, we can't predict anything, right? But you can still give a reasonable expectation. I think that's so important. And then be available, you know, especially when you're new. I know there's a lot of newer people on here. You say yes to everything. I have a new agent doing a listing appointment in Bartlett. Okay. And he's like, what do you know about Bartlett? And I'm like, I just know it's a city. Don't know anything else about it. But you're going to say yes to doing it because that's what happens when you're new. Even some experienced agents do that. So you want to be available, but I implore you all to set this expectation so that you're not being run ragged. This is your business. It is your livelihood, but you're also professional. You're not at people's beck and calls. You have other clients. You have other things that you need to do to grow in your expertise. So set that expectation on showing requests. Most showing requests, unless it's vacant, take 24 hours to hear back. Now more than ever, because we have to sanitize things, people have to get their kids out. Where are they going to go? Because there's no school open, there's no work. You got to sit in your car for 30 minutes for a showing. So make sure you set that expectation also on when they can expect to hear back from you. I made the classic mistake with one client of answering his 11:30 p.m. email. And if I didn't do that for the rest of our relationship, I was in the wrong because I set the expectation with him that if you email me at that time of night, I'm going to reply. And when I didn't, when I waited till the next day, he was very unhappy with me. And that was kind of my fault because I replied. So that's also for you guys. If you email me at 11:30 at night and I don't respond, it's because A, I'm probably sleeping. Okay. I'm an old lady. I go to sleep early. Okay. But also I know, unless it's an emergency, okay, because I will respond to emergencies, but I know if I do it that one time and I don't do it the next time, that it's going to make you guys mad at me. And I just want you all to love me. I don't want anybody to be mad at me. So I'm not going to go down that bridge. Okay. Again, company value, your value. Very important to have both, that you can come together for that great buyer presentation to get that buyer rep signed. I cannot stress to you guys enough how important it is, especially nowadays, you know, where they can schedule a showing with a different company online and they don't really get it. So it is your responsibility as professionals to explain agency to a buyer and a seller. That is your responsibility. And that buyer rep does explain it for them. And it also secures and creates that business relationship and those expectations, which is so, so important. Okay. The last quote, I think this is the last quote I have, is don't ever doubt your worth. The minute that self-doubt comes in, they can smell it off you. Okay. The minute that doubt comes in is the minute that you walk into a listing presentation asking for 7, but thinking you're probably only worth 5. And here's the deal. If you don't have your value proposition together, you might only be worth 5 right now. That's why I'm encouraging you guys to think about that. Answer those questions on the front page. Why should a buyer or seller work with me? What am I offering that's different than other agents? And how am I articulating that to the seller and buyer. That is so key. And to go in there with confidence. Does that mean that you're cocky? No, it means that you're confident and that you know you can get the job done. And you're confident that what you're offering to them is worth 7%. And if they're unwilling to pay 7%, then what you're offering them goes down in value as well. And you're going to take things off the table. Maybe you're not going to hire that stager. Maybe you're not going to hire that cleaner. And you have to let them know that I pay for everything up front and I don't get reimbursed until the property sells. So if you're going to pay me less at the end of the day, I need to take things off of this value proposition because I build this value, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, based on everything I'm offering you, which is why it's worth 7%. So if you'd like to pay more and be more comfortable somewhere, I'm going to have to take these things off the list. Negotiate. You guys are expert negotiators, okay? Negotiate for yourselves. I think that's so important. Okay. So here are some tips, right? I actually found this in an article on Forbes, and I really liked this, okay? Regardless of the context, many people associate negotiation with fear. Fear of rejection, fear of embarrassment, fear of appearing too needy or demanding. They're concerned that if they speak up for what they want, they won't get it, or worse, they'll be judged for even asking. I can promise you that the first couple of listing presentations I did where I went in with 7s or 6s, all I had was fear. Oh my God. I was like, they're going to throw me out. They're probably talking to discount brokers who will take it at 3.5%. Like, you know, I had every ounce of fear. But the thing is, I got 7%. I know that that's my value and I had it. You have to overcome that fear. You can acknowledge it. You can say, I have the fear of being rejected. Here's the thing. That's the worst thing that's going to happen. They don't choose to work with you. That's it. That's the worst thing. It's not going to ruin your reputation. It's not going to, they're not going to trash you everywhere. That's it. If you recognize what the worst case scenario is and keep moving forward, it's going to be fine. So that mindset is so important. Don't assume the negative. Don't walk into that appointment assuming that they're only going to take 5%, because now you're giving them all the power and you're setting your mind to accept 5%. Know what you want and what you'd settle for ahead of time. Okay, so if you know that you're going into this listing, you already know it's going to take a lot of work to sell. You already know the value proposition. Go in knowing what you want to ask for, but also go in for what you would settle for as well in the back of your head. So you make sure that you're not thrown off in the middle of negotiation and settle for less than what you'd be willing to take. Again, figure out what you're willing to take off your side if you have to negotiate down. If you don't take anything off your side and negotiate down, then you're telling them that what you asked for at the start was never the value of what you're offering. So keep that in mind. And remember, again, that's my last point, right? If you accept that lower commission, you're devaluing everything you offer if you don't take anything off your side. So make sure you guys keep those in the back of your head. I'm recording this. I'm going to send these slides out. It'll be good for you guys to refresh this, but I can't stress enough the confidence, the mindset, and you've got to have that value to back it up. You got to have that expertise. You got to have that full package and proposition for them. All right. My favorite thing to do is give you guys homework, not because I think you'll actually do it, but when I was growing up, all I wanted to be was a teacher for like 10 years of my life. I literally went as a teacher for Halloween for like 4 Halloweens in a row. Definitely the lamest kid on the block. But I love giving homework, okay? And I would love for all of you guys to actually do it and take me up on some of these, because fun, spoiler alert, some of this homework involves me. And who wouldn't want to spend more time with me every day? Come on now, guys. All right, these are your takeaways / homework. I want each of you to take a turn at Moxie and create a powerful Moxie listing presentation for yourself. Use the preset listing concierge ones for silver, gold, or platinum. I don't care which. Pick an actual property in the MLS, do comps for it, syndicate that in, so have your CMA be a part of it. But I also challenge you to create some of your own slides that incorporate your value. So perhaps you're going to ask me for a 7% listing. And so you're going to include the cleaning crew, maybe the staging, whatever it is. Then schedule a time with me to present. Should only take about 20 to 30 minutes. I'll even sprinkle in a few objections for you to help you get a little bit better. But this is something that you guys should all be spending time on. And once you do it once, It is your saved template. You're just changing out the CMA part of it, but you're keeping the package, the listing concierge package in, and you're keeping your value proposition in. So think about that. Build a professional, insightful buyer. I've left buyer out of that. I apologize. Build a professional, insightful buyer Moxie presentation. This one, I also spelled colleagues wrong. Oh my gosh, I was working on this until like 10 o'clock last night, which clearly is showing in these slides. Okay, schedule a time to present to one of your colleagues at the office. So someone on this call, maybe somebody you see around the office, a top producer you'd like to emulate and be like, reach out to them and say, hey, I'm trying to work on a good buyer presentation and I'd love to take 15 minutes of your time and present it to you. Work on it. Make connections with 2 new vendors. So a handyman, stager, cleaning company, painter, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Go through all the different business cards you've collected over the years. Google, Yelp, for God's sakes, reach out to me, reach out to a colleague, interview them, because you want to make sure that they, if you're referring someone, you're referring yourself. You're referring your brand. So always interview these people first to make sure it's a good representation of who you're offering, and tell them, you're looking to find a cleaning company that can work with you when you have listings, and you'd like to just chat with them for about 10 minutes about their cost, about what they do, maybe how they're handling COVID cleaning, things like that. So you can feel really good about referring it, but also so you understand the cost of that. I think that's so important. Attend the Become a Negotiation Guru class that's coming up on Sales Pro, Friday, 8/21 at 1 p.m. I think that's 2 weeks from this Friday. That's a great class. I have rave reviews from it, but that's going to really help you get that confidence up and get that negotiation in. And then last but not least, set an appointment with one of your GRA reps, a coffee, a lunch, a drink, an in-office or virtual. Don't care how it happens, but make it a point between this Tuesday and next Tuesday to meet one of your GRA reps in the offices to chat with them about what their value proposition is to clients. Have them pitch to you and then see how you can work that in with your presentations for buyers. So these are your 5 homework takeaway items. Use me, ask each other. Curtis is also a resource. I'm sure he would love to pretend and be a seller for you guys or pretend and be a buyer. As you have questions about, hey, I'm brand new, I don't have a handyman, reach out to Curtis or myself or other agents in the office, but really start thinking about this, you guys. I really encourage you to look at this not so much as homework, which is what I am calling it because I love giving homework, as I've already stated, but really this is how you build a business. This is how you sustain a business. You think a coffee shop owner is going to open a coffee shop up before he sources how much those coffee beans cost? No. So don't just start willy-nilly offering cleaning services if you haven't sourced the cleaning, and make sure it's good, because if that's a crappy cleaning, that reflects back on you. But B, make sure it's something that's within your budget and you feel is fair for the price of the property and the commission that you're getting. Same thing with the GRA reps, right? Everybody has different personalities. They're all wonderful. They're all experts in their field, but you might vibe with one of them over the other one and want to work with them more. Make sure you understand that and know who it is and be able to confidently say to your buyer, I'm referring you to the best. So with that, I lied. I said that I was done with my quotes, but I'm not. Your only limit is you. Very, very true. You guys are the only ones limiting yourself. You are all in a career that has no glass ceiling. You can make as much as you want or as little as you want. It's directly correlated to how you run your business. And I think that's so important and also powerful to know and to own. And that could be part of your daily affirmations while you're brushing your teeth. You say, your only limit is you as you're brushing your teeth with toothpaste in your mouth. But you got to really believe that. If you don't believe in yourself, if you don't believe in your expertise, if you don't believe that you're the realtor they should use, why should anybody else? Okay, with that, since I've talked so very much, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I'm going to go into the chat because I see that there's a few questions. Oh, only one question. Out of the 7%, how do you determine what the buyer agent will receive? So here at Coldwell Banker, we co-op a minimum of 2.5%. but that's a good point. If you want a very fast sale, you could potentially offer 2.75 or 3%, but you have to do a minimum of 2.5%. Are there any questions or comments? You guys can click the hand raise icon if you wanted to unmute. Otherwise, you could write it into the chat as well. Bueller.
Hey,
Curtis.
Hey, Miss Rachel. I was just going to say, I am in the office Monday through Friday in the morning, every morning at 9 o'clock. If you want to see a quiet office at 9, that's the time to come. And I would love to have somebody present their seller listing presentation to me Monday through Friday. We could meet anytime, 9 o'clock to, anything in the morning. It's a great time to practice. You don't want to practice on your client. You want to practice on yourself in front of the mirror. You want to practice on a colleague. You want to practice on me or Rachel. But I would, and it's a learning experience, whether you've been in the business, 20 years or 2 years, to practice your listing presentation. So I would love anybody or challenge anybody to practice on me, please. That's it.
Thank you so much, Curtis. You guys, Curtis is so right. You do not want to be practicing on buyers or sellers. It should be polished. And, I know some of the Lakeview agents and Gold Coast and West Loop agents on this call did some listing presentation practice with me on Fridays during the stay-at-home order. So this is a good way to kind of keep playing off of that. But you guys want to have it down. You need to know what the next slide is before you go to that slide. Don't pull a Rachel and misspell like 5 words on your presentation. But Curtis and I are harmless, okay? You can even let us know, hey, I want you guys to be really aggressive sellers and fight with me on it because I need practice with that. But for your first couple ones, you might just want to just get it off your chest and be like, okay, I'm done. Tell me what I could have done better. Tell me what I did great. And then as you keep going, like Curtis said, even if you're an experienced agent who has your presentation down pat, when's the last time you did it in front of an objective third party that just wants you to succeed and help you polish it up? So that's really key. Maxwell asked my favorite question. Oh my God, look at him taking my homework assignments to heart. I love it. Maxwell asked, when do you want these projects by? I really challenge you guys for the presentations to do make the buyer presentation and listing presentation within a week. You have between this Tuesday and next Tuesday, let's say, for the next Coaching to Confidence, which is all about cold calling. But this is something you guys can continually build off of in your career. This is not a one and done, but once you have the main template done, then you can sub in, some out, but at least it's done and it's there. And especially for the newer agents on this call that might not have as many showings right now or as many listings right now, you have the time, and this is business building activity. And that's what's really important to remember. As far as setting up the meetings with GRA, having phone interviews with other vendors, I would probably do that before September, just so you have a really good thing. You don't want to be caught with your pants down, right? You don't want, all of you guys who are out there prospecting, I would hate for you guys to actually have someone today say, oh my God, yes, Fernando, please come over. I think my house is worth $700,000. I want to list tomorrow. Okay, and you have nothing. You're going to rush and try to get everything done between 3 o'clock today and when you're going to go meet with them at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. And you're going to be stressed. You're going to be rushed. You're not going to feel good about that presentation. So take the time now while you have it to grow your value proposition, decide what it's going to be, create the buyer and seller Moxie presentations, know your GRA partner that you're going to recommend, know the cleaning company you're going to recommend, stagers, whatever it is, and have that ready to articulate to someone. Because if you get that call, I want Fernando to be like, oh my God, Rachel, I just got a call for a $700,000 listing tomorrow. Thank God I did all this legwork last week and I'm ready to go. Like, that's what I want to hear from you guys. And a lot of times in this business, not mentioning anyone's name on the call, but I'm sure you could identify with this because I've been the same way before. But your lack of preparation does not constitute an emergency on anyone's part. So if you guys aren't prepared for that call If you're not prepared for that business and you feel rushed and you feel like staff do this, marketing do this, Rachel do this, that's not on us that you didn't prepare. That's on you. We're going to help as best we can, but we're only human. And if you call me at 9 o'clock at night to help you with a Moxie presentation that you're doing at 8 a.m. the next day, I'm gonna be honest, I'm probably like a glass of wine in, getting ready for bed. I don't know how helpful I'm gonna be. I'm gonna answer your call and I'm gonna do the best I can, but how is that running a business? So really, you guys, my challenge is do the 2 Moxie presentations within this week. Reach out to Curtis and myself for the listing presentations. We'll also happily be the buyer, but I would love for you guys to get to know each other better. So set up a meeting with somebody else on this call, or maybe another colleague that wasn't here, and do the buyer presentation to them. Talk to your GRA reps. They're always here. I actually think Aaron just left, but they're always here. They're always happy to chat with you guys, and start making a list of the different vendors you want to associate with and just kind of knock those down. So that would be my suggestion. We have 6 minutes left. I like to be very true to the hour. Does anybody have any other questions or comments? If there's maybe an experienced agent on the call that has some suggestions, happy to have you speak up as well. This is the worst part of virtual, you guys. I can't I can't see your faces.
Hey, Miss Rachel, it's just me again. I kind of say it with listing presentations. If you go to a listing presentation and you just walk out of there and you feel like you just hit it out of the park, can you hear me?
Yep.
And so we're not inventing the wheel. We're running a business. The object is to replicate it. If you walk out of a listing presentation and you just feel like you really connected with that client and you were on your game and there was nothing that they didn't ask that you didn't know, when you get to your car and you're writing out your note, your thank you note to drop in the mailbox saying thank you for the time, think back and see how I can replicate that. What did I do to prepare myself for that particular listing presentation that I can replicate it and do it over and over and over again? Because there was something that you did that clicked. I'm talking about, what music you listened to. Did you have a coffee before you went? I mean, the littlest, minutest thing, you want to replicate that exact scenario so you can do it again.
Very true, Curtis. Thank you. All right, with that, I'm going to let you guys all go. You get 4 minutes of your hour back. I'm going to send you guys out the slides, and as soon as the video is done populating, I'll send that out to you as well. I am so excited. I have a note of everybody that was on this call. So I'm going to know if you don't reach out to me and Curtis for some of this homework, okay? I think it's so important. It's not mandatory, you guys, but I want you to be productive, successful agents for you guys. Not for me, for you guys. That's why I'm in this role. That's why Curtis is in this role. It's so important for us to be able to help you facilitate that success. So take us up on it. It is not all the time that that's going to happen. I'm just kidding. I'm always available to you guys. And I hope to see you guys all next week. So next week's topic is cold calling, both scripting and mindset. So I'm going to have some real scripting for you guys. I've also been working on some scripting for your sphere that's now cold, meaning those people that you helped 5 years ago and you haven't said boo to since then. So I'm going to have some stuff for that because I know that there's a few members on this call, but also in the different offices that have people they haven't talked to in a couple of years. So how do you rekindle that? Because it's kind of cold now. So I'm so excited to see you guys all next week. I know Curtis and I cannot wait to hear from you guys as far as all of this is concerned. As always, we are resources for you guys. We are here for you. Please use us. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Stay safe, keep sanitized, and go out and sell some real estate. I'll talk to you guys later.
Thanks,
Bye.
Rachel.